Hello and welcome back. This is the second part in my series on the Peddars Way. The Peddars Way is a long distance footpath that runs through Norfolk from Nettershall Heath to a little place on the coast called Home next to the sea. And today I'm going to be walking from Wretham to Little Cressingham. So we've just left Stonebridge in the village of Wretham, and the first section of the walk, unfortunately, is on a road. It's a very quiet road. It's more of a lane, really, but it's a tarmac surface, which is a little bit harder on the legs. But it's probably a mile or so, a couple of miles maybe long, and then we're back on the track again. Well, thankfully we're back on the track now, off the tarmac road. It's not a long section. It's probably only a mile or so, mile and a half maybe, but it is a relief to get off that hard surface. We're now going through some woodland. It's a real mix of woodland, beech and pine, and we're about to come up to an MOD training area where there's often gunfire and bangs and things you can hear in the distance. I don't know whether there are any exercises going on today. But we'll see. It's a huge area, and yeah, it's not uncommon to see tanks and soldiers and soldiers parachuting in and big Chinook helicopters and all sorts. But like I say, I don't know what's going on today. We'll have to see. So here we've got the first of the Norfolk song lines. There are 5 of these along the Peddars Way, and they kind of tell a story, really. Yeah, it's quite hard to pick out on camera the lettering on there. It's obviously engraved, chiseled, and it's with your eyes you can see it because you've got that depth of field, but without the perspective, it's quite hard to pick it up on camera. But it basically says, the footprint of our ancestors, familiar as our own faces, remote as fossils, written on clay and washed away over and over, over and over. Quite what that means, I'm not entirely sure, but it's quite nice, and they make quite useful way markers as well. So behind me is Thompson Water. Thompson Water was created in 1845 when a tributary of one of the rivers was dammed to create a watering hole, and it's now a nature reserve. Attracts all sorts of wildlife, birds, and insects and things, and it's a really lovely wetland habitat. Nice place to stop. We've got trees down right across the path. It looks like somebody's made a little diversion around. There's another, I'm assuming, massive World War II bomb hole here. That must be 100 feet across at least. Huge. As I said in my last video, this area was used as a bombing range for bomber crews during the war, and you know, the whole landscape is pockmarked by these huge craters everywhere. I'm assuming that's what it is. I mean, this area there's just so much history here, you know, going back to prehistory. And I know that in this wood behind me over here, there are a number of tumuli, which are ancient burial mounds. I don't know how old those particular ones are, but I dare say they're probably Bronze Age, maybe even earlier, I don't know. But yeah, unfortunately it's all private land in there, so I'm not going to go in there trying to find them. Further along on the path, as we get further towards the coast, there are some that are visible from the path. So you know, I'll be sure to capture those when we get to them, but that'll be in another video. So this is the second song line. Surveyors have made their lines onto the land, trapping Albion in a net of roads, a taut web on the edge of empire. Very nice. So we're going to stop here for a couple of minutes and just have a drink and a snack. Well, I'm going to have a snack. Maggie's going to have a drink. I'm not cooking anything today. Just going to have a cereal bar and a big drink of water. I had a comment on my last video asking why I muzzle Maggie, and I just wanted to talk about that really. This isn't a muzzle, this is a head collar, and it's just an alternative to a conventional collar, and the reason that Maggie wears one is because she naturally wants to pull. Newfoundlands were bred originally as fishermen's dogs because they're great swimmers, but they were also bred as draft dogs for pulling, and they were used on all of the early expeditions to the Arctic and Antarctic as dogs for pulling heavy loads, as well as huskies. So she naturally just wants to pull, which is great, but you know, I need to keep her under control, and this sort of collar just discourages her from pulling, not in a bad way, you know, it doesn't hurt her in any way, it just gently pulls her head to the side as she pulls forwards, and so, you know, that's the reason I use it. It doesn't really bother Maggie that much. She's relieved to get it off at the end of the day, but I should imagine that's a bit like me being relieved to get my boots off at the end of the day, you know, it's just wearing something. So yeah, it's not a muzzle, and it doesn't cause her any discomfort whatsoever. It's just to stop her pulling. You know, ideally I'd love to have her off lead, but you know, you can't do that. You can't just let dogs run free on public footpaths where there are other people, children, other dogs. You know, she's a big dog, she weighs 47 kilos. If she goes bounding along the footpath and knocks a child over, well, you know, that's going to be awful. I can't keep her off lead, I have to have her on the lead. You know, she's a big dog. Well, we've had a drink and something to eat and a rest. Time to press on. I had to stop and put my coat on. Not because it's raining, just to keep the wind off. There you go, there's my big oak of the day. That beauty. Whew. It's probably 500 years old. I wouldn't be surprised, looking at the girth of that trunk. Yeah, a beaut. We're just coming up to Home Farm, and this marks the point where we leave the MOD training area behind. We didn't see any activity. I did hear a couple of bangs way off in the distance, but I certainly didn't see anything. Mind you, they might just be really well camouflaged. They probably saw me. So we're coming up to probably the least nice leg of this section. There's about a mile that follows alongside a road. It's a B road, but it's quite busy as B roads go. It's the Brandon Road, and what they've done is they've routed the footpath on the opposite side of the hedge to the road. So you have got a little bit of screening, but you can't really get away from the road noise, unfortunately. Yeah, so that's kind of like the last bit that takes you into Little Cressingham. So we're very nearly back at the car, very nearly in the village of Little Cressingham, which is just as well because it's started to rain, but at least it hasn't been raining all day, so I'm quite grateful of that. This marks the end of this video for this section, but if you were planning on doing the Peddars Way in day-long sections, you could combine parts 1 and parts 2 that I've done in videos and make that a full day. There is accommodation in Little Cressingham. There's a bed and breakfast. I don't know how many beds they have and how many people they can cater for, but there is there is an opportunity there. Other than that, if you're planning on camping, there are stealth wild camp opportunities along the way, either side of the footpath, and in woodland. But obviously you do that at your own risk. The advice is always to seek landowners' permission, but I know a lot of you out here, a lot of you out there rather, myself included, do occasionally stealth camp, just because sometimes that's the only option when you're doing a multi-day walk or whatever. But yeah, plenty of woodland around. It's been really nice to get out today. As you'll know if you've watched the last video, I'm doing quite a lot of building work at home, which has been using up a lot of my time, and I haven't actually been able to get out for ages. So it's really nice to have been able to get out today and come for a walk with Maggie. It's been lovely. So thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.